better this situation. I was reading, coming up here on some of the stuff that Jonathan had put in the 2001 report, and some of the stuff I'm amazed. I'm just getting back in this game, and I got to re-educate myself on a whole lot of stuff that's going on around, and believe you me, I'm become aware of a whole lot of things. As coming through the late 50s and early 60s and all of the stuff that was going on all over the nation concerning black people, I feel like if we could make it through those tough times, this is just merely a stepping stone. We just need to get up and go do it. So I'm here to say that I'm ready to go with whatever it needs, that we need to do to get this job done. I believe that if we don't do something now, we will become a permanent underclass, and I would hate to see that.
Mhm.
And we headed in that direction.
Yeah, and as I said, people don't even understand. I mean, I don't know whether people are so tied up in all the gadgets and cell phones and all the other stuff, you know, that will pass away. I mean, how can you text for 2 or 3 hours or something like that, you know? And I don't have anything against texting, but I think that if you can't read, you need to be finding out how to read, not texting somebody, a friend or relative or somewhere, because reading is fundamental. It really is. Tell me one thing you could do if you couldn't read.
Well,
I mean, your health could be in danger.
Well, I can give you an answer. There are two things that we do. We make babies that we can't raise,
Oh, yeah,
and we get in trouble with the law.
yeah.
Those are two direct consequences of not being able to read. Those aren't good. But then, that's why some folks believe that miseducation sometimes is by design and not just happenstance.
Yeah. Wasn't there a book,
The Miseducation of the Negro by Carter G. Woodson.
were we still being called Negroes then?
Some of us still use that term today.
You gotta be up there to use that term in years or something, or you bypass something.
I use it, and folks don't
For
like
a reason, though.
I do use it for a reason, but
Yeah.
you know, I think that when let me just say this, that I'm very hopeful. Let me begin with that, because fixing a problem requires accurate and honest diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot fix a problem by pretending it doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
You can die pretending something doesn't exist, like, well, I don't really have diabetes, so I'm going to keep eating the same way I'm going to eat until you stroke out and die.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can be optimistic about the future and then take the hard path of changing your diet and losing weight. So I'm very optimistic. Having said that, I think there are reasons why we face greater challenges today than we did before. One of the biggest reasons we face a challenge is both diminished leadership in our community and diminished infrastructure. Mr. Porter was a force. He's dead. Evelyn Davis was a force. She's dead. So we have people who've gotten older, and they've died. Jesse Taylor was a force in our community. He died last week.
But what is scary is that there's no one to step up.
Well, and this goes to the second point. I got a haircut Tuesday. I got my new glasses, said, oh, I need to go get a haircut. I got my new glasses. So I went over there, and my daughter was there, and after, they were just about done, and I said, well, she's my hair consultant. The guy took and started cutting away here because he was cutting away grade.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I see.
When you moved in this building, what, 1994?
96.
96? I didn't have gray hair in 96. That was 16 years ago.
Yeah.
So a lot of the folks who now are engaging in leadership in our community, the young ones have gray hair. I mean, we look at Des Moines and we say, oh, well, Kale, who's in the state legislature, is a young leader in terms of Des Moines' black leadership community. He's gonna be 60 years old.
You are
Okay,
kidding.
now here's the thing, that you've got the young leaders who are like 45 or 50 or 55 ready to join AARP or the Pro Champions Tour, which is a seniors tour, and then you have the middle-aged leadership, which is in the 70s, and then you have some folks hanging on in churches that are in their 80s and 90s, and thank goodness they haven't died. So we have not cultivated our young people and young leadership. Young leaders in our community got gray hair. This is a second challenge we face. Now that's fixable, but that's a second challenge we face. Also, we've lost infrastructure. Gates, the youth league that you used to have in Waterloo, that was around for so long, that helped kids be able to go and do better at Waterloo East, and then get scholarships to UNI and Iowa,
Right.
and Waldorf and Simpson. I believe that's dead, isn't it?
Well, you don't hear much about it.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, that's something that we definitely should check on. and
Okay,
see
well,
what-
but it used to be an
Numbers
institution in our community, in this community.
Right.
IUAP, Intersectional United Advanced Planning, which used to exist as a very potent center to help folks get off drugs and alcohol, is the post office. The Organization for Self-Actualization Center, OSACs, is a legal office now. So we've lost leaders. Other leaders have gotten old. Bob Wright's dead. Other people, other people are old and hanging on. Well, we don't have that young leadership. And we have institutional capacity that we've lost. Many of our churches, they had young pastors 40 years ago. We got, you know how come you have pastors celebrating their 30 and 40 and 50th year anniversaries? Because they still pastoring after 30 and 40 and 50 years. And there isn't something left behind. We have I know we have churches in Des Moines where you've got pastors that should have by now equipped younger preachers to take over for them, that are holding on, begging for folks to help them keep their churches alive. Churches splitting, churches fighting. And it's not just Des Moines. And actually, Des Moines' black church community is healthier than most of the communities in Iowa.
Wow.
We don't even have. Look at what happened in Cedar Rapids. Flood came through, nearly wiped out the black church.
Yeah.
So, KBBG is alive and thriving. But we used to have a black radio station in Cedar Rapids once upon a lifetime ago.
I'm shocked to know that. I don't know why I didn't know it, but I did not know.
No, well,
KUCB?
Dr. Knox was advocating stations in multiple communities. You had KUCB in Des Moines, it doesn't exist. When the elections roll around, the airways are silent. Cedar Rapids was part of that grouping back then. Waterloo survived because of the strength of Jimmy Porter. The other communities lost their Davenport used to have a black community radio station. Doesn't have one anymore. So that's something. But there's another more ominous fact that imperils our community in the absence of looking in the mirror and being honest. Take education. A few years ago, the Register asked me to write a piece on the black academic crisis. I said I would if you let me write a piece on the white academic crisis. At the time, I documented a white community that was in severe academic decline. Now, nobody wanted to hear that. Folks didn't mind discussing black kids in academic crisis because they believed that we was raised by savages anyway. But they really struggled with the concept of me saying white kids are in trouble too. Well, a few months ago, the new director of the State Department of Education basically came out and said our white kids are doing worse than just about any white kids unless they got a war, pestilence, famine, or an earthquake in their backyard. If white kids aren't learning in Iowa. It is not very realistic to expect black kids to learn in Iowa. And here is the data point. According to the state, September 3rd, 2010, every single one of our 10 largest cities, not only was every single one of those districts officially failing, every single one of those high schools were officially failing. Every middle school was officially failing but two. Almost every elementary school was officially failing. This is an academic crisis in our urban centers of almost incomprehensible proportions. People can't even comprehend what it means.
Yeah.
They have
Most people
every
have
single
no
high
idea.
school, every single high school in Ames, Cedar Rapids, Davenport, Dubuque, Des Moines, Waterloo, Iowa City, Sioux City, and West Des Moines, failing. Every high school in West Des Moines,
Is that
was
not where
officially-
there's a whole pocket full of money?
everyone was officially failing. My last year on the Des Moines School Board, our largest group of dropouts, understand, a super majority of our district were kids, either minorities or kids in poverty. Yet, the majority of the dropouts were middle class and affluent white kids, who weren't on free and reduced lunch.
Unbelievable, isn't it?
Which means that if we want our kids to be educated, we cannot look to a system. If you can't educate middle class and affluent white kids, you are not going to educate poor black kids coming from single mother homes. That's just reality. Unless you do something like open a Joshua Christian Academy, where you take them out of a system that can't educate kids and put them into a system that can.
Tell us a little bit more about the academy. When did it come into existence?
Well, Joshua Academy, they started out with what, first and second grade, and every year after then, they added a class to keep those same kids. And I really love it because we have kids that now 6 and 7-year-olds is reading at an 8th and 9th grade level, and in fact I got a granddaughter in that academy that she's first grader that's also doing 8th and 9th grade math. So they are learning, and they're excelling at
But to
everything.
you, with the opportunity, you know, when we point to the gifted children, what are the other kids? Ungifted or something, and you can't teach them?
But
Well,
this is,
I've watched children that was failing in the public school go into Joshua Academy. They went in with F's and D's that are now getting A's and B's. So on a short period of time. So it's got to be the way they're teaching our children. And going in the public school, they make it available. I never forget when my baby son, when he graduated from North, but he was in the 10th grade. Teacher was coming to my office almost daily because she was afraid of him, and I never did understand that. She was afraid of him, and she said he acted more like a bully, and I asked her, I said, well, what are you teaching him? So she went on to tell me what she was teaching. I said, no, what are you teaching him? She said, well, I don't teach him anything, I make it available. So
Wow.
basically, they make it available, but really not teaching them anything. If they don't take the initiative to get it, they don't ever get it. And most teenagers I know never take the initiative to do anything.
Yeah. Well,
but here's where we have some culpability, and have to be honest. We have a lot of African American educators that privately acknowledge that the system that exists cannot educate kids.
but not only that.
But they get a check. And so they argue against remedies that would help, whether it's vouchers or us creating our own, wherever we have seen our community open academies like Marcus Garvey's Academy in LA, We've seen our third graders blow away the public